Hello there. Today I'm going to be showing you one of the squares from the Folk Tales blankets. This is a pattern from the West Yorkshire Spinners, and they do have a video on YouTube that covers it, but I'm doing this for a friend, so anybody else obviously is more than welcome to watch it. So today I'm doing the twists and trebles, which is the one that you can see here, and they all seem to start with 26 chain, and then you crack on with the pattern. So here we have most of the chains, so last three, 1, 2, 3. So there you've done your 26 chain, and the first line, first row is double crochet into, and you start off in the second chain from the hook, so you skip that one, double crochet into the next one and all of the ones thereafter. 2, 3. You don't need to go into 2 loops on the first round because you'll be doing a border, so you'll be picking up the others on the way back. So if you just do 1 double crochet into each of your chain, and I shall meet you at the end. Right, so here we are at the end of row 1. It will be a bit curly, don't worry, it'll sort itself out as you go up. So row 2 is 1 chain that doesn't count as a stitch, and then you're going back along the row, double crochet into each stitch, so going through both parts of the stitch, the top of the stitch. So 1, 2, 3, all the way along until you get to the end, and again I shall meet you there. Okay, so now we're at the end of round 2, and that's sort of really just the border, and now we're getting into the pattern proper. So 1 chain, turn your work, and a double crochet into the first stitch, and then 1 chain, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the third. One chain, skip, and a double crochet into the following stitch. So that's all the way along. 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet. Now this is the right side. You know it's the right side because if you've done a chain as opposed to a foundation row, your tail will be on the left hand side. So all the way along, 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet into the following one, and I'll meet you at the end. I'm almost at the end of row 3, so I've got 1 chain, double crochet into the last stitch, and then we're going to turn and do exactly the same all the way back. So it's 1 chain, turn the work, double crochet into the first stitch, 1 chain, and double crochet into the top of the double crochet from the previous round. So you're missing all of the chain spaces. 1 chain, miss the chain space, double crochet into the top of the double crochet from the previous round, 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet into the double crochet from the previous round, and all the way along, and I shall meet you back at the end. Okay, right, so now we're at the beginning of round 5, and this is where you're introducing your second colour. So you do your 1 chain in your new colour, and then double crochet into the first stitch, and you can neaten your yarn. Give these a little tug to tidy them up. Okay, so this one's the trickiest of the rows because you can't really see where you are. So for this one, I mark the third stitch along. So you've worked into the first one, and you're going to be doing a treble into the chain space from 3 rows previously, and then double crochet into the next stitch. You're going to miss this stitch altogether. I'm just going to pop a marker in there because it's a bit tricky to see. So yarn over, and then you're wanting to go into the chain space, not from the row you've just done, the previous row. If you just pull your work a bit, you'll see the chain space. So yarn over and go into that stitch and then back up, because you're wanting to work it at the front of the work. So I'll show you that again. So yarn over, find the missed stitch from round 3, which is here, go in front to back, and then come back up through the space and work a treble. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then you pull your work back up. And then you're going to do a double crochet into that marked stitch as the third stitch. This seems to be the only one you need to mark. You can find it much easier once you're further down the row. So double crochet into there, take that marker out. So then a treble into the next chain space. So again, if you pull your work a little bit, that's your next chain space. So yarn over, in, and then up through the space, treble. And then you can see these much easier if you pull your work forward. So that's the stitch you've worked into. You're going to skip this stitch here and double crochet into this one. And the double crochet you're working is into the top of the double crochet from the previous round. So you've got double crochet, chain space. So it's always at the top of the double crochet from the previous round. So treble into the top of the stitch from 3 rounds ago and up through the space, and then a double crochet into the top of this double crochet from the previous round. And that is all it is all the way along. Treble into the space and up, back, double crochet into the top of the double crochet, and I'll meet you at the end. So here we are, almost at the end of round 5. I've got the last treble to do into the last chain space, and then a double crochet into the last stitch of the row. And round 6, 1 chain, and then it's double crochet into each of the stitches all the way back. So 25 stitches. It's just worth counting every so often. Certainly at the end of round 5, it's easy to see. You can just count the trebles and you should have 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you have 12 trebles and 13 double crochet. So you're coming back along with a double crochet into every stitch until you get to the end, and I shall meet you there. Right, so that was the end of round 6. Definitely worth counting your stitches to make sure you've got your 25, just in case. And now we're going to bring back your first colour. There's no need to cut the yarn, you can just carry the yarn at the side, because you're always going to be changing colours. You're always doing 2 rows of each colour, so you'll always be back at the beginning. So 1 chain, and then double crochet into the first stitch. And this is like the rounds 3 and 4, so it's double crochet, 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next one, 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next one, and you're going to do this for 2 rows. So you're going to do chain, double crochet all the way along to the end, 1 chain, turn and do the same all the way back. So 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet, 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet. Okay, and do that for 2 rows, and I shall meet you back ready for round 9. Yes, this was 5 and 6, 7, 8, for the beginning of round 9. Okay, now we're at the end of round 8, and rounds 5, 6, 7 and 8 are the pattern, so you're just going to repeat them all the way up until you've done sufficient. So we're going to bring in your second colour, 1 chain, and a double crochet into the first stitch. Again, if you want, you can mark the 3rd stitch along, just so you get the right one to start with. Just the top of the double crochet, marker in. So treble into the skipped stitch from 2 rounds previously. Now this is where it all gets much easier, because you're always going into the second colour. So this is the stitch that you're looking for, that's the chain space. So yarn over into there and up. So you're working at the front. There's your treble. And then a double crochet into the marked stitch, or the top of the double crochet from the previous round. Yarn over. As you see, it's much easier because you can see the difference in the colours, so you know exactly where you're going. So yarn over into the top of the double crochet, your treble, and then into the top of the double crochet, missing the chain space which is there. You can see the chain space there, and then into the top of the double crochet. Yarn over, treble into the skipped stitch, double crochet, and that is the pattern. So if you work your way along, and all your trebles should sit on top of the treble from the first time you change the colour, so round 5, so they should be straight up. So if you find that they're off, you've missed a stitch somewhere, pull it out and get them back on track. So I shall meet you at the end, and we shall come back, and then that will be it. Okay, so here we are at the end of round 9, and this is your pattern set. So you're going to turn and come back, double crochet in your second colour all the way to back, change to your first colour, double crochet, 1 chain, skip a stitch, double crochet for 2 rounds, 2 rows, and then repeat with your second colour. And you're going to do this until you've got 7 rows of the treble in your second colour. So you'll be here. So I shall meet you back here, and we shall finish off the square. Okay, so here we are, finished round 30, and we're ready to finish the square and do the border. So you can cut off your first colour, second colour, sorry, not the first colour. Get that out of the way, and then we're just going to do 2 rows of double crochet in your first colour into each of the stitches. So, chain to turn, double crochet, just going to tight, right. So yeah, double crochet all the way across, then one chain, double crochet all the way back. So nice and straightforward, and I shall meet you back at the beginning for the border. Okay. Okay, so we're now ready for round 33. In actual fact, you're going to do 5 sides of this square. So you're going to go across the top, down the side, along the bottom, up the side, and then back across the top. So this one obviously is very straightforward. One chain, double crochet into each of the stitches along the top. So I shall meet you at that corner rather than make you go through the excruciating process of watching me trying to work around the camera. Okay, so now we're ready for the first side. First side's quite straightforward and the instructions are really good. So 2 chain, turn the corner, and then you're going to work 1 double crochet into 3 of every 4 rows. So 1, 2, 3, and then skip 1. So 1, 2, 3, and you're working around the post of the double crochet along the side. So there's 3, then skip 1, and then another 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, skip 1, and it's nice because you've got the 2 lines of colour, so you're going to do 2 into the green, or colour 1 in your case, and then 1 into colour 2, skip a colour 2, 2 into colour 1, 1 into colour 2, skip colour 2, all the way down. So skip colour 2, 1, 2, 1 into colour 2, and then you'll have 4 rows left. You're skipping this one of colour 2, and you're going to work into all of each of the 4 left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, then 2 chain. So now you're going to be working along your chain edge. Just pardon me while I find my end. There we go. Right, so you're going to be working into the chain, and this can be a little misleading. So if you tip the work forward, if you have just worked into one stitch, one side of the stitch when you did your first row of double crochet, you will have, even though it doesn't really look like it, 2 bits of the chain. So if you can see there, and then the next one is there. When you work into the stitch, because it's a chain, this part here sort of goes into there, so it looks a bit strange. I'll see if I can show you how it looks. So double crochet into the first stitch, And then if you're looking at the front, you can see this here. And then you can, as you go through, it picks up the stitch at the back. But once you move on, it looks like you've gone into this stitch and you need to be in there, but you don't. It's this. And then you pick up the back. So again, when you go on to the next stitch, it looks like you've already worked it. And again, so you're going into the stitch that looks like it's been worked, picking up the front and then finding the back. So keep a careful count of your stitches along here. You know, you've got your 2 chain there, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've worked 5. So keep a count because you need to know that you've got 25 along the end. So I shall meet you at the end. Okay, so we're on the last side, and this is the trickiest one because you've got the colours that you've brought up the side, so it's not quite as clear where you need to go in. So it's 2 chain to go around the corner, and like the other side, you're wanting to do 3 stitches out of every 4. Now the first few are relatively straightforward, so 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to miss one. Now to work out where your stitch is, you don't want it to work into the stitches that the yarn that you've carried up the side. You want to actually work round the double crochet. So we're missing this green one and we're going to the pale blue. Now this is the double crochet, because if you remember this line, it's 1 double crochet, a treble, double crochet, treble. So that is the first stitch. So you're going to be working, it's going to look a lot deeper as you do it. It's not wrong, I promise you. So work round the second colour, double crochet, 1. So this is the sort of the line that you're going to be following. So this is your next double crochet, because what you can see there is the carrying of the yarn. So 1, 2, and then green. That is your double crochet. 3. So then you're back to, because you're doing 3 out of every 4, you're going to want to work around the colour 2, double crochet, the colour 2, double crochet, the colour 1, double crochet. So you carry on 3 out of every 4, making sure you're working around a double crochet, not the yarn that's been carried up the side and twisted. And then I shall meet you here. We'll maybe do a little bit more. So we've done a green, so we're now back to the pale blue. So 1, 2, 3, and the pale colour, 1, 2, 3. So I'll see you back there. So I'm nearly at the end of this side, and if you've been counting in 3s, you should end up with 4 stitches left to do, because you're after 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, so your sides look quite similar because the paler colour sort of still, you can see the top of the stitch because of the way you've done the sides. So now we're going to work across the top again, so two chain, and then this is a nice straightforward one. You're going to work into every double crochet, that's a side stitch, so across the top. If you're not sure, have a quick count from there, and 1 stitch in every double crochet until you get to the end. Okay, I'll meet you at the end. Right, that's really quite pretty.